Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sara Gonzales. Glenn, what was the top story for you today?
We gotta talk about. We'll talk about it later. My lead story today is Venezuela, what's happening in Venezuela, and at the same time, what's happening with AOC.
All right, Stu.
We get a lot of important research from Media Matters, and we have some extra today.
I have to tell you, I got a call from the Washington Post today on that. Remind me when you get into your topic.
All right. Wow.
Oh, I can't wait. And Mr. Chad Prather, who is with us today. What's your top story?
College scams. Aunt Becky's going to jail.
Could not believe
We'll
that.
see what happens.
Oh, I can't wait to get into that. First, we want to thank our sponsor, American Financing.
American Financing is a place that you can go if you are looking to buy a new home or refinance. I highly recommend, if you have a adjustable loan, that you refinance right now. Please, there's only two ways this is going to go. To 0 or below 0 APR, which will mean money's almost worthless, the country is over, or jack these rates up to be able to avoid inflation. That's it. They're not going to last for very long. Please, if you have an adjustable mortgage, please get a refi and go through these guys. These are the people that I've trusted for a very long time. They're going to treat you right. They don't have, they're salary based. They don't work on bonuses from the banks, so they actually work for you. Also, rent has gone up 5% in the last year alone. If what I believe is comes, there's going to be a lot of renters. Your rent will go up through the roof. Now is the time to buy.
You can go to AmericanFinancing.net or you can call 800-906-2440. Glenn.
Okay, so I got up this morning, and if you've seen the shelves of the grocery stores, can you show the shelves of the grocery stores here? These are the shelves of the grocery stores in Venezuela. You guys are not close to my age, so you may not remember. Does that bring to mind anything that you can recall in the past?
Going to a grocery store right after Jeffy?
That's the way the grocery stores used to look in the former Soviet Union. Mm-hmm. There was nothing. When the wall fell and people came from behind the Iron Curtain and just went to Germany, there were interview after interview of people just standing in the aisles of supermarkets going, "What is this?" They had never experienced anything like it. So that's what socialism does to your supermarket. Now let me show you what socialized medicine does to your hospital operating rooms. This is Venezuela, where they were just telling us, Michael Moore, that socialized healthcare in Venezuela is much better than what we have. Really? Because that's now what they have in Venezuela. Now, let me take you one more step. Nobody cares. Nobody is talking about it. Nobody's asking Sean Penn, how do you feel? I haven't seen Sean Penn get a truckload of food into the Venezuelan people. Mercury One, by the way, we are gearing up now, so when this thing collapses, we will be there and we can feed the people in Venezuela. They are literally starving to death. Please go to Mercury One and donate. But nobody cares about any of that. Meanwhile, we have AOC yesterday in the Senate. She's talking to the head of Wells Fargo. Now, I want you to see first what she says to the bank. The bank was making loans to a company that builds prisons, okay? One of the contracts that they had that Wells Fargo financed was the Department of Homeland Security and Border Patrol prisons on the border, okay? So the cages. Listen to what she says to Wells Fargo.
Mr. Sloan, why was the bank involved in the caging of children and financing the caging of children to begin with?
He's such an idiot.
I don't know how to answer that question because we weren't.
So in finance, you were financing and involved in debt financing of CoreCivic and Geo Group, correct?
For a period of time, we were involved in financing one of the firms. We're not anymore, and the other. I'm not familiar with the specific assertion that you're making.
Okay, it's because it's ridiculous, okay? So she's making these ridiculous charges, but remember what they're doing to finance companies. They are flexing their muscles to scare people The next time you're a bank and you have a prison company come to you and say, yeah, we build prisons, is anybody in the bank going to say, you know what, the government doesn't like that stuff, maybe we shouldn't help those people? That's what they're doing to gun manufacturers and everybody else. This hurts capitalism because it creates fear in the financial market. Now, you want to see what causes, supermarkets like I just showed you in Venezuela? Listen to this.
So let's focus on the Dakota Access Pipeline. Should Wells Fargo be held responsible for the damages incurred by climate change due to the financing of fossil fuels and these projects?
Stop.
I don't know how you'd calculate.
Okay. He's just, he just keeps going on about, you're an idiot, basically. But do you hear what she's saying? Mm-hmm. Should you be held responsible as a bank for financing fossil fuel projects because of global warming? What she's trying to do is what they're doing to the gun companies right now, which is scare you away as a bank from doing legal work with credible companies that are bringing energy out of the ground and to your car or your home. That's what she's creating right now. This is the building block of Venezuela. Right there, make no mistake. If these people take over, that is your building block of Venezuela.
I'll give you a perspective that maybe AOC could understand as a bartender, which maybe she was halfway good at. I don't know. She overserves someone in a bar. They go out, get into a wreck, kill an innocent family in an accident. And so what happens? Well, we should sue the distillery that made the liquor, that made the whiskey that the person drank that she served. That's ludicrous. So she's
not even saying that. She's saying, let's sue the bank that gave the distillery money,
the ability to make it.
Yeah. Wow. Stu, you want to weigh in on this?
Or the people, the potato farmer who farmed the potatoes to get into the vodka. Just like, gosh. I mean, it's hard to take her seriously because she comes off like, someone wrote a script and gave it to their 12-year-old daughter to go protest something. It's like she just doesn't seem to have a handle on any of this. But I think it's important to understand that it doesn't really matter, right? Like there's enough people who do believe this stuff. And the fact that they have representatives now able to go in there and attempt to actually argue these things publicly. I mean, she is without shame at this point, and she thinks she's, indestructible because she's everybody's, social media sweetheart. But, the end of this is not, I don't think, is positive for her as far as, the way she's going to be respected or not. However, this philosophy is not new, and it's not going away. And this is really where they want to go. If they can find a pathway to get this through in 2020, they will. I mean, Bernie Sanders is not her. I mean, Bernie Sanders is, he's funny in another different way, but he's a long-term ideologue that actually knows these issues. If this guy becomes president of the United States, I mean, he will actually try to do these things. And that's scary. That is scary.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chad.
I was just going to say, here's a card that says, and tell me if this doesn't sound familiar. Our revolution is not communist. Our revolution is humanist. We only want the right to an education, the right to work, the right to eat without fear, and the right to peace, justice, and freedom. Now, you probably recognize this as being what was distributed in Cuba in 1959 during the Cuban Revolution. How many countless tens of thousands of lives lost in prison, kangaroo courts, people lost at sea, all of that, all because they wanted humanism, not communism. This is the same thing. It leads to that. The rhetoric sounds one way, but it's propaganda that goes to a very deadly end.
Well, but what still just fascinates me is that you're talking about what happened in Cuba a long time ago. We're talking about what is going on in Venezuela right this second, and we're still having the conversation about socialism. It blows my mind every time. While we're on the topic of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I just want to play. Oh, you're Hispanic too? I had no idea.
Yes. Well, Native American and Hispanic, very similar.
That's true.
Actually, it's not. My people were here, and then your people came from Spain, slaughtered and enslaved my people. But I'm not going to bring it up.
You just brought it up.
Well, we're both fellow POCs. All right, so that's fine. So I want to play this for Chad. I want to play a little bit of a highlight reel from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's time at South by Southwest. And I just want to see how long you guys can stand it before you just say enough. Watch.
Like whatever. It's like,
Good point.
It's like whatever, and like, or whatever, like, just like, it's like this,
Well, don't hold back. Tell me how you really feel about incrementalism.
So again, that's going on. We're talking about socialism. This is their speaker. This is who they choose to lead that movement, and that's what comes out of her mouth.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the thing? We talked about it yesterday. Have you guys seen the thing from, I think, this podcaster, Mr. Reagan?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Seen it?
Yeah, we talked about it briefly.
I am
Going around a lot.
I don't know if any of it is true, but it sure works.
It would make so much sense.
So much sense that she doesn't know what she's talking about. And so when she has to expand on anything, once she gets off the talking points, it's like, whatever. Yeah.
I do love how all of these things happened at South by Southwest. All these socialists go and talk at South by Southwest. It's like the most commercial thing possible. It's like everything is sponsored. Every company is there. Every giant multinational corporation has a presence there. But let's talk socialism. It is really weird. Like, you get a bunch of people, because it's artsy, that support these ideas. But the whole thing's being paid for by people who are like super extra mega Doppler capitalists.
I believe the Che image is copyright. It has a copyright on it. I think Fidel's image is copywritten. I think
They should have a new fire festival. Just do it in Venezuela. I mean, they got some open. They should go down there and
It's a different kind of fire.
a whole different deal.
Yes,
Yeah,
but it might work.
that video, I saw it last night. And it took 20 seconds to induce vomiting. It's horrible.
I know it was. I think the whole cut is like 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
Couldn't do it. 20
I couldn't do it either. I got through about a minute, and I was like, okay, I can't, because this is actually real life that's happening right now. Like I think we're gonna go ahead and go to break now before we get into Media Matters stuff. I was like, we'll wait. Before we get back into the conversation and talk about Media Matters, we want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor. Glenn, I know you've had amazing experience with Relief Factor.
I've had really good experience with Relief Factor. It has.
Well, I said amazing. You just said really good.
Amazing.
Okay.
I'm going home today. Today's my day I can paint, so I'm going home tonight to paint, which is something that I couldn't do. I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of my paintings. There's one where I had to write something and they were shaking so bad from the pain that it was hard to even read. And I actually left it that way for my kids, but that's gone with Relief Factor.
Yeah. You can, if you are in pain, one of many Americans who are in pain, because apparently a whole bunch of us are just living in pain all the time and don't think that we're ever going to find anything to help us get out of pain, try Relief Factor, see if it works for you. You can get the 3-week Quick Start Pack now for $19.95. 70% of the people who try that Quick Start Pack go on to keep ordering more. So it's working for them. It works for Glenn. It works for many of us here at The Blaze. Try it and see if it works for you. You could be out of pain. Life-changing. Go to relieffactor.com. Right, Stu.
Excited.
Yeah, Stu.
Tell me Media.
Apparently we don't need to remind him.
I know
I'm ready. I can't wait to tell you. I can't wait to tell you about the Washington Post and Media Matters, but go ahead.
Go, set him up.
So Media Matters is a collection of really terrible people who live sad, pathetic existences. For example,
how you really feel.
They just had a person, and this was in seemingly as like they were proud of this, was in a New Yorker article, that they had one person for an entire year assigned to the job of looking at Donald Trump's tweets and then comparing it to the transcripts of Fox and Friends to see if he was inspired by Fox and Friends. An entire year of your life sucked out of comparing Donald Trump's tweets to Fox and Friends. I would want to kill myself like 9 different ways.
I can't imagine how much you would have to pay me in order to take that job.
Right, it has nothing to do with
I want to kill myself just listening to that description.
Right, it's terrible. So this has been their path for a long, long time. It was an organization started by people like, Hillary Clinton was involved in the creation of it.
George Soros.
I know he invested $1 million to try to take you out at one point. David Brock was involved in it. And it's basically, they fake outrage about things people say and act like they're really bad and try to intimidate sponsors to leave programs.
They first started with Imus, then they started on me, and they went to a 20-hour day where they had people around the clock for 20 hours going through my stuff, all my transcripts, radio and everything, and churning stuff out every single day.
Trying to build the outrage machine out of outrage that obviously doesn't exist. The Tucker Carlson thing being the most recent example. These things, if they were actually bad, well, then you'd want to leave them in their little time capsule of 2006, and no one would ever know they occurred, right? Like, it has nothing to do with that. They're just trying to get people fired, and everybody knows who they are at this point. The credibility, though, is laughable because the guy who runs Media Matters, and it's no longer David Brock, all those people have left the organization. There's another guy there who, his name is Angelo Carasone. He has been criticizing Tucker Carlson about what he said on the radio in 2006. So people decided to go back and see what was he saying in the same exact time frame. I believe the November 2005 is where a lot of the stuff came from. Give you some highlights here. He complained about the coverage of a, quote, gang of transvestites. He then went on to wonder if the author was a tranny lover. He assumed a tranny could not be attractive because the effing guy was Bangladeshi. I guess people from Bangladesh can't be attractive. Alluded to assumed criminal behavior based on the country of origin. He said, what the hell was he doing with $7,300 worth of stuff? The guy's Bangladeshi. See, they can't have stuff, that's why. Then he said he named one of his posts Tranny Paradise. Went on to, he told potentially abused high school students from Japan to quote unquote lighten up Japs.
Yeah.
He mocked Japanese students who were forced by their coach to run in the nude in front of the team, possibly videotaped in the nude by the coach, thought that was hilarious, and physically and mentally abused as well, because it's funny when high school students are physically and mentally abused.
Well, if they're Japs.
Yeah, that's true. The Japs, it's okay.
Japanese.
Multiple anti-Semitic posts referred to the Jewry of his boyfriend.
Oh my God.
He saw moderate leanings of his as a Jewish man as a, quote, a consequence of his possession of several bags of Jewish gold.
Yeah. That's
and on and on and on and on and on.
Now, this is the guy that was just this week on television saying how bad Tucker Carlson is, how horrible Tucker is. And we can't handle that. We cannot, as a country, we won't be able to withstand this unless we stop him.
And so this is an interesting thing because you'd wonder why you'd put someone in charge of an organization like that was saying all these really offensive things. It doesn't seem to make any sense. But it makes all the sense in the world because Media Matters is essentially a terrorist organization. And I mean that like in the terms of the media, where like you could have, where like an NBC or a campaign, right, would attack another organization. The problem with doing that, if you're also guilty of all of the same things, is you will also lose your thing, right? Like if Hillary Clinton comes out and makes bad accusations against another one, and then he's another organization then is caught doing the same thing, it's going to hurt her, and she's a valuable member of society in their view. So Media Matters has flipped this upside down, and it's actually somewhat of a smart strategy. They've put basically a giant zilch at the head of this corporation that nobody knows and has no real value to anyone. So if he gets taken out, no one cares. That's why David Brock is no longer there, because now the people who work there are all people that are essentially meaningless zeros.
Cogs,
just cogs. They're absolutely. So, you lose this guy, they got 10 other people they can replace him with, and, there's no loss. So, like, you think of a suicide bomber, and going back to the terrorism analogy, you have Osama bin Laden. He doesn't send himself in a suicide vest, right? He sends some woman or some kid to go up there and blow up a few people and says it's for the jihad. And I'm sure they tell him that he's going to get his 99 virgins when he goes to Media Matters Heaven or whatever it is. But the bottom line is that he has no value, so he's able to say anything because there's no credibility to lose. The problem here is not Media Matters, who does these things strategically, and in some ways it's a smart approach. It's the fact that there's no media organization on earth should accept one story from these people, especially knowing the obvious, overt, blatant hypocrisy that is coming from the people that are in the organization. They did all the things that they accuse others of and worse. They don't even try to put these things in context, and the media takes it because they're lazy and they want Tucker Carlson to be fired. So they take whatever these guys are saying and just pop it on TV and run with it as if this is a journalism organization. It's disgraceful, and it is disgraceful again from Media Matters, but what are you going to do? You can't insult a zero. The issue here, in a larger sense, is someone like the Washington Post who might take a report like this, or someone like NBC, take a report and run with it. They're the people that are the problem here.
What I have to agree with on Stu, and I think his use of the word zero is so perfectly chosen because they are. That's not hyperbole. They are zeros. Now, let me tell you what happened with the Washington Post. So I get off the air, get a call from a reporter, okay, on the Washington Post. I'm not taking a call. So they write, Dear Mr. Beck, we're doing a story on Media Matters and their effect, and we know that you've had quite a few run-ins with Media Matters. We wanted to know if you found them at all credible. I wrote back, and we'll see if they use any of this. I said, the fact that a Washington Post reporter even asks that question tells us exactly the state of the media. Yeah, there's no way they're going to print that. They don't know. Of course they know. They know exactly who these people are. They are denying that these are those people. They have to keep it compartmentalized. No. They do a lot of good. They do a lot of good. No, they don't. They were set up to destroy lives. That's all they were set up to do.
But if they recognize that, then they can't get clicks off of.
They can't use it either. They can't use it either. I can't tell you, when I was at CNN, over and over and over again. Now, they had an excuse. This was in 2007, so they were brand new. But over and over again, they would quote Media Matters. Media Matters.
Yeah, they used to actually quote them.
Well, but their name says Media Matters.
See?
Right.
So they're credible.
Right. Yeah. So they would quote it all the time. Then they just stopped quoting it. But if you were getting the Media Matter alert, you would be able to go, wow, that's identical.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's all over. Nobody now says they use Media Matters, but if you get their faxes or their bulletins every day, you see exactly how much of the agenda they are setting for the mainstream media.
Chad, you want to jump in on that?
Well, I'll just say, I was on Twitter this morning and I said, I don't care what Tucker Carlson said. I've probably said equal or worse in more recent days. What I care about is what Lisa Page said. Let's talk about that. I mean, let's go to things that matter here. Where you have a potential Department of Justice scandal that's going on, and these folks are testifying on that. Someone came back and said, well, you need to look at Trump and how he's compared to Hitler and all the things he's doing against the media. And I said, okay. Someone else had commented and said, please give us an example. And then, of course, they brought up the German Luschen press. And I said, okay, so you're going to take, that's what you're going to go with. And you're going to honestly say, and so I shared the article that was in USA Today, I guess yesterday or the day before, that said, white people are to blame for the air pollution that black and Hispanic people are breathing, which is absolutely ludicrous. I said, this is what you're going to go with. And you don't look at that and say, yeah, we got to call it something. Let's just call it fake news. Because this is ignorance.
Yeah.
It is. And so Media Matters is a perfect example of that. They're going to come out there, and as you said, it's absolute hypocrisy. It's going to do that. I mean, hopefully this guy does get fired and he can go to heaven and get his, 72 Japanese tranny versions.
That's true.
Back in a minute.
You call them such nasty names. I'm just be so worried about their sort of self-esteem.
We've got about 30 seconds here. I was just wondering, Chad, could you tell me if I wanted to hear a podcast from someone who possibly wears a cowboy hat a lot of the time, has a set with like a deer in the background? Do you know where I could find that?
Yes, you can. You can go to blazetv.com and you can get it. And I'll tell you what, it's a beautiful thing. We have fun over there. We're over there in the other building. We're kind of excluded, and it's like my mother called me the other day, and she's like, "Well, I enjoyed this guest and this guest." She's like, "But sometimes you boys just kind of have party time."
Yeah, Mom, and I get paid for it.
Yeah, Mom, we're in the basement.